And our last speaker, Dr. Henrika Mustajoki, is Head of Development for Open Science at the Federation of Finnish Learned Societies. The Federation facilitates the National Finnish Open Science coordination. Henrika also works closely with research ethics and concepts of responsible research and shared decision-making models. Very interesting issues.
Lovely. Thank you very much for inviting me. I've got some slides with very, very little text. This makes me feel very small after everybody else has brought out their super slides. I don't say lightly this is the Finnish approach. We've had a little conversation around our European counterparts, and we appear to be the only country has taken this particular approach to coordinating open science issues, at least in Europe. So I think we're unique, and I believe it tells something about our research community. Now, this works. The coordination, we had the Finnish... It wasn't on, was it?
No.
No? Good. Everybody's ears were spared. The coordination was transferred to Federation of Finnish Learned Societies about this time last year from following the 3-year ATT project. And there'd been a lot of conversation on who's going to take the responsibility for the coordination following the project. And we spent most of last year having conversations about what we want out of the coordination. Is the Federation the correct place for the coordination to be housed in? And we decided on 3 principles: that the coordination itself needs to rely on being transparent, independent, and be based on the community. And the independence part is one of the unique elements, because the coordination is not directed or part of the Ministry of Education and Culture. It is solely and purely owned and run by the research community. And the community is important. We made a very strong decision that everybody involved in the research community can be part of the coordination. That is funders, all kinds of research organisations, the support people, that we want like a round table that all participants are welcome to have discussions around the issues around open science. So that was our collaboration principle, that we want to work together. And the downside of that is that things are going to be slow and messy, at least at the beginning, probably throughout the whole process. There are so many different approaches, so many different languages around open science, so many different aims and hopes. But we took the stance that this is the only way we're going to achieve things that are going to be part of the culture change that we keep tossing around as a term here, there and everywhere. That if we want to change the research culture, we need to be patient enough to have this dialogue with different partners within our research community. And the often spoken other issue is our relationship with the international change. There are voices around saying, do we need Finnish coordination? Science is international. And we think at least we need to have a place where we together can form a voice that we can take into the international conversation. Plus, a lot of our funding is still nationally based, so we need to have questions around that. We came up with this very simple structure of how we're going to work together. What we wanted was that there needs to be some muscle to make decisions. So there is a strategy group in the middle. It's got representatives, named representatives from key organisations, and we visited all the organisational types that we could think of and asked if you want to be part of the strategy group, and then we invited them to nominate members. There are currently 15 members in the strategy group, and that will meet 6 times a year. And that is what we've asked, in what sort of mandate does a strategy group have to make decisions for the research community? And the mandate comes from the fact that everybody is represented. It doesn't have the muscle to force anybody, but the plan is that things are discussed in a way that by the time the strategy group makes a decision, it is a joined decision on where we want to go. Around that, they're supported by 4 expert panels. And we made a decision that we're going to look at open science from 4 different perspectives at least. So there is data, learning, access, and research community. And that's one of the elements that makes the coordination very unique, that we have taken all these elements together. And the expert panels meet minimum twice a year in May and November. And they set a set of working groups. And the working groups are fixed term. And they work on a specific issue. So they've got a timeline, how long it's going to take us to get there, and what are we going to produce at the end of it. Those who are familiar with RDA can see a resemblance in a structure to the RDA structure, which was one of our benchmarks on when we were designing this. Anyone can join the expert panels or the working groups. They're not by nomination. They buy people who believe they've got something to contribute and who want to be part of it. And there are times when we go, this expert group or working group really needs someone from that particular perspective to join them, and then we'll make an invitation for them to come. But they are kind of self-selected groups. As far as I'm following the groups at the moment, all the groups are working. They've got timelines, they've got plans, and this is progressing incredibly well considering we set up this structure in November last year. We've got more than 200 people as members of these groups. Now, what are we doing? One of the key elements is the voice of research or the researchers. I'm consistently and always asked, how does this structure gain the voice of researchers? And the way Anka was saying, how does this impact the people who actually do the work? That we're not designing the road to open science in a way that actually makes research more difficult or the lives of researchers too challenging. And because we are in a federation on learned societies, one of the access routes that we are exploring is to involve the learned societies more in our efforts to create the voice of research louder, because we know active researchers are very time poor, and the conversations that we're having aren't particularly attractive to them. So we'll need to figure out new ways to make sure the voice of research is heard. Now, we've got a Finnish Open Science roadmap that's dated 2014. So one of the tasks that this particular community needs to do now is to update this roadmap. I don't believe we need a new roadmap. The previous one was very good and on a high strategic level, but it's definitely needs updating because its vision is still 2017. So we have no open science vision for Finland currently looking forward. So that's one of the tasks that is on the top of the priority list for the strategy group. This is the kind of the pair of words that we keep hearing, and we heard them earlier today with the DORA questions. What are the merits and what sort of metrics are we using? Part of the coordination is a working group looking at guidelines for responsible evaluation of researchers, not research, but researchers. And they're going to provide the first draft of the guidelines before the summer holidays. And we know there is a lot of European conversation around that evaluation issue, and we hope to form a Finnish voice to join the European and international conversation around these issues, because obviously this isn't just a local question. And we've got working groups around metrics. We are closely working with the Tuha network that are also working on metrics to create better understanding on responsible use of metrics around open science. We've had the first draft of a Finnish open access strategy out on comment. We received 103 different comments from organisations and individuals. There's at least about 100 pages of comments all up. The strategy group is going to look at those. They've got a meeting this Friday, and after that, I hope we've got a timeline on how we're going to proceed with this strategy. The hope originally was that it will be ready by the end of this year, together with the implementation plan. We had a meeting around what is the content of the implementation plan last week. So that's progressing as well. But after this Friday's meeting, hopefully the strategy group has been able to agree on a more specific process and timeline on how we're going to move forward with our open access strategy. This is a big issue around small, or not necessarily small, but domestic scientific publishing. How it's that? We discussed that with Jyrki around Plan S. What are we going to do to support that there is publishing also in Finnish? And the Federation, together with the publishers, the Office of Public Information, our counterparts in Norway, and then NRESH, COST activity, have put together an initiative about multilingualism in research. It's not saying we shouldn't publish in English or Finnish. It's about the importance that science and research is published in more languages than one, because we've got different types of audiences. And this now feeds straight back into the merit issues. And you all see links to UFO and other elements around this. So there is an initiative to support multilingualism within research. The next thing coming up in the pipeline is that we need an open data strategy nationally. This is a bit of a beast, an elephant that needs to be certainly eaten in pieces. But there are now a process starting of what it's going to take for us to come up with an open data strategy nationally. And this is a question that I've been personally wondering about different types of platforms. We'd heard today about EOSC and Virta and Open Air. And then at the same time, I've had conversations with Elsevier, for example, who plan platforms that will just eat EOSC up for breakfast. They're going to come up with platforms that provide open access to these small players like EOSC or Open Air, because they want to take the entire research data or all entire research evaluation within their grasp and use of their tools. And this is kind of my little say of, we need to start having conversations as a community of what we think independence means. Are there elements that we need to keep within our own grasp? We've heard about crisp and pure with the previous speaker. We already use major commercial products, and the Elsevier's plan is to try to take all of this and create on top of it. What does it mean for us to be an open community when it comes to the tools that we use, understanding the logistics of the tools that we're using, and start that conversation again, because this is a whole new playing field that the digitalization and the big players, often people refer to Elsevier, Google and Amazon as the three players that are all planning and hoping to get significant control of the way research data is managed and shared in the future. So that's my little conversation piece that we need to start, and we haven't had too much of those conversations yet. My favourite science sort of philosopher, Einstein, information is not knowledge. And that takes us back to thinking of who do we want to be as a research community. We don't want to be necessarily producers of information. We want to be producers of knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrika. Questions, comments?
Thank you. I apologize in advance. This is not a question. This is a comment. Now I'm wearing my CSC hat. Well, I don't think Elsevier is gonna eat EOSC, but I guess there is a risk that that the services that we are publicly funded and provided, they are not as attractive and easy to use as the commercial ones. And therefore, I would just encourage everyone to be very vocal about their service needs and about the national services and European services that are publicly funded and produced. We can't make good products at CSC without your input, and that is part of my work at CSC, that I'm just starting to be the ears of CSC towards the data support services and personnel to hear out what you need, so that you won't feel it necessary to run to the open arms of Elsevier. And of course, we have nothing against commercial services, but there are certain things that are it is good to keep in public hands, such as valuable data, for example.
More questions, comments? If not, thank you, Henrikka. You also get one of these. Now I put it here. I would like to thank all of you participating in this. Thank you for speakers. Very interesting topics covered today. And I would like to thank our organizing team, Kimmo Koskinen, please rise. Maria Moisio, Jari Freeman, and also our partner Henrikka and Ilmari Jauhiainen, who is not present here. So they made it possible. And thank you, Toni, for taking care about the webcasting. And as you heard, the results will be published. We will have a blog post in Open Air. I think Juuso is making a blog post in Think Open blog, and probably, maybe, and the recordings of the presentations will be in University of Helsinki Unitube, but we will publish these links to you later. So all the presentations and recordings will be there. Thank you very much, and I think I turn to Finnish. Juttu jatkuu juttutuvassa. So we continue in downstairs restaurant if you want.